first of all, you created the game. You're doing executive producer on the movie, putting everything together. What was it like to bring that vision of the video game to the film and making that aesthetic so perfect and seamless?
Wow, I wish it was perfect, but I think we got it pretty damn good. One of the things, thank you, by the way, when I founded Gearbox and started creating Borderlands with my team, you always hope when you're doing something that it's going to be cool enough and loved enough that maybe it could adapt to other mediums, but we didn't expect a movie out of this. But when the opportunity started to appear, we didn't do this. This wasn't some business people, like some company that's publicly traded that owned an intellectual property that wanted to do a deal with some other company. This was entertainers and artists, me and my team, thinking, we've got characters and storylines and a universe here that's relatable, and there's things we can only do in the video game space, but there's something to this that can't really emerge unless we do it as a movie. So we should look at that. And to his credit, a guy named Ari Arad Productions, he and his Avi Arad approached me in 2011. That's when we first started talking about this, and I beat him up for like 2 years because I'd had plenty of people from Hollywood approach trying to take our video game IP and adapt it, but I didn't.
It's also your baby as
That's
well.
right.
I mean,
that's
your
right.
hands are on every ounce.
Thank
of
you. Yeah.
Code,
yeah.
The color, the space, the feel.
Yeah. I mentioned literally the name of the property, and I designed the logo, like literally like writing it onto my desk when I was designing the like what the logo ended up being, and it's very personal. But Ari's a gamer. Like we played games together, and a lot of and then I'm like, okay, you know what? After a couple of years, I'm like, maybe I can trust this guy, and so we started working on it, and I committed myself, and I committed our team, the Gearbox team, to be a resource, and so I was there every single step of development, every single day of the shoot. I was there on set, and always available to Eli and the cast and the crew, and just wanted to do right by our fans.
And I gotta mention the cast. The cast is so diverse and
Crazy.
well done. Exactly like if I was in your seat, I'd be just jumping up and down like, wow.
It's insane. Exactly. Like what we had, like Kevin Hart's one of the biggest actors in the world. He's in our dumb video game movie. Like what's up with that? Like, and Kate Blanchett, like Academy Award winner.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kate Blanchett is playing Lilith. This is insane to me. And Jamie Lee Curtis is a freaking legend and a god. And I watched Jamie and Kate get nerdy in the lore. They're becoming Dr. Tannis and Lilith, and like doing the lore stuff, like shit that my buddies and I just dreamed up, and I'm believing it. And it's like, we work in a virtual space, digital. Like they manifested this in the real world and turned it into reality. And they're really talented because it's really nerdy lore stuff sometimes, and they did it, and it blows me away.
Yeah. How much of input did you have on the cast, dude? Like
a bit, Well, I got to approve all of it, of course, and some of it, like Jack Black goes back 2012. Electronic Entertainment Expo 2012. He comes with his son because they're fans, and I gave him a demo of Borderlands 2, and in the conversation it's like, if we ever make a movie out of this, you got to play Claptrap. And he's like, I'm in, let's go. But Eli and Kate worked. I never would have thought of Kate in a million years. Not because she's not amazing, and she isn't she is a perfect Lilith, but I never would dreamed that it was possible to have someone of her caliber that would want to be anywhere near this thing, and yet she did it. And it's a lot of testament to Eli, because they have a lot of trust. They worked together before. And same with Kevin. Kevin is a giant. He's like one of the biggest stars in the world, and for him to want to touch our movie, like. And I think for him, part of it was it's kind of cool,
Mm-hmm.
You get dad cred,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other thing is, he got to be an action star, you know, because Kevin is he's amazingly talented.
Yeah.
Like, I knew he was talented, but watching him work, whoa,
Yeah.
he's a legend for a reason. He's where he is for a reason. It's not a mistake, and his range is so much more than anybody that wants to put him in a box of just being a comic. And this movie gives him a chance to prove that, and he does it great. And you see, he's an action star. He's an action star.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do want to touch upon the fact that, like, I went to a technical high school.
Oh, cool.
I'm almost 50 now, but I went to a technical high school where pretty much video game and video game products were something that a lot of us were looking at when we were doing computer science and electronics.
Yeah.
And same thing with you, learning how to code, learning how to build all this thing. What has it been like to see yourself from the early days, being from the way computers were to where now, and now you're seeing the the graphics from a game that you built on the big screen with these stars. Awesome. What is that experience been?
I'll tell you, it's really cool. The techniques that Hollywood uses to do its magic and the techniques that we use in the video game space to do our magic are converging. They're the same tools and technology. In fact, it's so close that the pipelines for some of the CG are identical. And there are frames in this movie where every single pixel on the screen was rendered by Gearbox, which is really cool. My video game company. And so we could share assets, and so it makes it really authentic feeling. But it's a really neat place. You know, for me, I've been in the continuum the whole way. Some of it's fidelity. Those of us on the cutting edge of 3D graphics could see the difference between pre-rendered and real-time rendering. In a video game, we're drawing the screen 60 frames per second, so you have to have a computer fast enough to do it. If I could take a day to draw a frame, I'm using the same software. I could just do a lot more fidelity, a lot more detail in the simulation for lighting and all that. And so, I kind of saw the continuum. So I've always been 10 or 20 years ahead of where we've been heading from just a pure technology perspective. But I think from a tools and pipeline perspective, that's really converged in a really amazing way to make this kind of process not just better, but kind of fun.
Yeah. And it's great to see that your hardware and your software is instilled to give that feeling.
Yeah. Oh,
to
yeah.
really give that aesthetic. And
and the hardware and the software, at the end of the day, they're just the hammer and the chisel, or the paint and the paintbrush for the artist and the talent that is doing this thing. They're tools, so the easier the tools are to work with and the better the tools are to work with, and the better the touch of the talent is. And you feel that when you play a Borderlands game, and you feel it when you watch the Borderlands movie. And it's really amazing that we get to live in a world where the technologies come so far along to support the same kinds of talent touching both mediums.
Yeah, and I've played the games. I've been a
awesome.
fan of the game.
Thank you.
I think they're awesome.
Thank you.
And I always love that series and that style of video games. And I'm just looking at the movie, and I'm just like, sometimes I want to just sit there, put up my controller, and just it's almost like a seamless.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One of the things I'm hoping for, though, is the opposite too. For those of us that play a lot of video games and immerse ourselves in them, there's also people in our lives that don't play video games. And I love the Borderlands, but and my mom is proud of me, and she loves me, but she's not going to play video games like I do.
Yeah.
But I can get her to come see the movie. And I think everyone's got people in their lives. There's people that have spent huge amounts of times in Borderlands, and they can bring other people in their lives to it. But I think there's also people that are just curious. Maybe they've never touched Borderlands before, or they've never thought about. They don't even think about this as a video game. They're just curious because they like the cast, or they like this idea that we're doing things you just can't do in movies, blending sci-fi and Western. What are you doing? We're blending, drama and comedy in ways that you don't get away with normally. And it's because it came from this weird video game that it gives the film a space to be almost undefinable as a genre, but it creates a type of fun entertainment that I think will create a lot of experience, a lot of curiosity for people looking for experiences. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that those people have a great time. I'm hoping that people that want to share Borderlands with people in their lives have a great time. And I'm hoping, of course, the fans have a great time. And that's who was in my mind during my work on all of this.
Yeah, and it's funny because we come from a generation where we grew up with video games.
Yes.
It's been in our lives since day one.
Yeah.
And you're seeing now parents taking their kids to see, and they're gonna be taking your kids, their kids to see your game on this big screen. How does that make you feel that what you built and the generations and generations now are following it?
It's what Borderlands is about, actually, is building families and bringing families together. One of the there's a couple ways to think about that too. There's the families that we have, and we want to build bonds and closeness with the people that we are connected to through family. But there's also the family we make, which isn't necessarily the family we're born into. And Borderlands has always been about that, where people that have no business being together are jammed together and learn how to become a family. And I think the film actually is the best version of that. The film, because that's a story idea, and so the film is the best place for that to emerge. It emerges great in the gameplay too, where families can play cooperatively together, and that's one of my most loved stories that I've heard is when families game together. But families watching movies together, I kind of think that's a big part of it too. It's a cooperative experience. It's a shared experience, and I love that.
And you put it perfectly about when people go see this movie, that your family isn't always your blood.
Yeah,
that you get around.
Sometimes it's a family you make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that movie, this movie really does show that.
Yeah. Oh, you see, awesome. These characters have no business being with each other, and in fact, for some of it, they hate each other. But then they're like, wait a minute, there's a skill there, or there's a thing there. Oh, and they start playing off each other and benefiting from each other's commitment. First, the commitment to the mission, and then it's a commitment to each other. Yeah. And when that happens, like I'm swelling up right now with emotion thinking about it. And it's wild to have these deep, like, emotional touches in something that also has like poop jokes. We don't care. Exactly. Like we don't take ourselves seriously at all. Like we're gonna just goof around and have fun. But there is this really like meaningful like center line, and that's always been the case with the games as well. A very serious center line with outlandish, ridiculous, we're just goofing around, having jokes, telling jokes, and that's kind of the way we like it. I think a lot of people like to live that way.
I mean, I think that's what makes like our generation different. We always took that risk, and now that our work is coming on screen, you're seeing that risk. Taking those further steps. With Borderlands, what are you hoping for? Are you hoping for a sequel?
That'd be cool.
Something already planned?
That'd be really cool. You always hope.
Yeah.
But you never count on things, So we didn't make this movie with a cliffhanger. We made this movie where you will leave feeling great, and you'll feel like, wow, I got a full dish. But if we do show up with more, you're gonna be like, oh man, I definitely want to spend more time with these characters or in this universe or with the space or whatever it is, and so there's always that hope, and when there's hope, well, sometimes there's plans, and we'll see what happens.
And this is a perfect product to continue the story, because you got the expansion packs, you got the games, you got everything.
Well, one of the cool things about the approach we took with the cinematic universe is that we're not limited by the games. We're using the characters and the universe and the storylines and the themes, but we're not using like the plots or the script. It's kind of like how Marvel did it, where the cinematic universe can live independently of the video game universe in our case. And I think the benefit we gain from that is if it does work, if we are doing a lot with the cinematic universe, well, we're not going to run into that weirdness that sometimes happens where, like, okay, in the best case, like a Harry Potter or a Lord of the Rings, well, you ran out of books. Yeah. Sorry, no more fun for you. The books are done. Yeah. Oh, man, I want more of this. Or like what happened with Game of Thrones, where they were ready to tie up this television series, but the guy didn't finish the last book yet. Like, okay, now what are you doing? And they just make some shit up that has nothing to do with whatever he's writing. And it's like, okay, I don't want to run into that problem at all, because we're going to do what we're going to do in the video game space. And I want filmmakers to lead the filmmaking process, and we want to support them. So we have to have them related enough where the film and the video game can draw from one another and get benefits from each other, but they're not dependent upon one another.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about this and the saga and this journey.
Thank you.
I think people are going to truly love this movie when they see it.
Thank you.
They're going to go back and go play the old videos. If they haven't played it, they're going to replay them again.
It's already happening. It's amazing.
It's a fun movie.
It's amazing to see it. Yeah, and it's like hasn't even launched yet. And just the idea, seeing the trailers, like we're seeing more people coming back to the video games or checking them out for the first time just from the marketing campaign, which is pretty shocking and pretty cool.
Yeah. And before I let you go, what's the one thing you would like to tell the audience and be able to get them out to the theater?
Oh man, well listen, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm Duval Magic on Twitter. So if you see this movie, if you love it, if you hate it, whatever, hit me up. I'm at Duval Magic, DUVALMAGAC, and tell me what you think, because you're why we're making this stuff. I want to know.
Thank you so much for talking with us.
Cheers, man.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
We're looking forward for everybody to see the movie.